Welcome back. This is, I think, going to be an amazing show. Henry, who do we have today? What do we got going?
Well, I'm very excited. We have Dawa Tarchin Phillips. He is the founder and chairman of Empowerment Holdings and the founder and CEO of TAIWA, an AI technology platform for human transformation. He's also known as one of the world's foremost human transformation experts. Maybe he knows a thing about transportation, too. And a visionary serial entrepreneur. He spent 12 years in a monastery, including 7 years in the meditation retreat there. And that takes me back to the old 70s. I don't think he's old enough for that, but I remember a lot of people were into the meditation retreats back then, and I almost made 1 or 2 of them. He established a University of California research center in neuroscience, which I'm also excited about to find out about AI, neurotechnology, and things like that he can speak to. He's a sought-after speaker and a #1 best-selling author on mindful leadership and conscious business. He's the founder and chairman, I said, of Empowerment Holdings, and his work is recognized by the Transformational Leadership Council, the Association of Transformational Leaders, and also the New York Times, Huffington Post, and Forbes. So Dawa Tarchin Phillips is with us today, CJ.
I think you left out that not only is he's a handsome man, right? And
he's a film director,
too. He's a film director and maker, yeah. I mean, he's got the whole package, man. I want to be him. Hey, Dawa, welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, CJ. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your background. You're a fascinating person. I mean, I know you're from New York, but are from everywhere in the world. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I was born in New York. My parents were immigrants. My father immigrated from the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and my mother from Germany. And I was born at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. Then when I was a child, we moved to Europe, to Germany, where my grandparents were able to support the young family. And I spent my childhood there in my early youth. Then I came back to the US for education. And then later as a young man, like it says in my bio, I moved into a monastery. I spent 12 years as a Buddhist monk, 7 years of those in meditation retreat. And it really helped develop a deep understanding of the human mind and human body connection, and also the ability of humans to develop their potential. After that, I came back to California, where I co-founded a research center at the University of California, and then started supporting leadership teams, particularly in hypergrowth companies. And that led to the development of TAIWA, which is our AI technology company that we currently have to support human transformation at scale.
Amazing background, honestly, fascinating. And for whatever reason, I'm very curious of that. A Buddhist monk, a monastery. I mean, how does a gringo who is German and a little bit of Trinidad, I end up a Buddhist monk? I'm just curious. How did you find that path? Was it through your mother or your father, or something totally independent?
You know how children are. They always have questions. And I was a very curious child. I had some fundamental questions, and some of them were existential. Like, where did I come from? Where am I going? Why am I here? Who am I, and why does that matter? And as I grew up, I realized not many people had answers to those questions. And so as a young man, I asked myself, how important are these questions to me? Do I just want to forget about them and then look back in my 80s and wish I had gone after them? Or should I prioritize them and really seek answers to them, and then we'll see what happens after? And so I decided the latter. And it led me onto a path that then brought me into the life of a monk in a monastery. But the good news is 7 years in, I got all my answers. And so I would definitely say it was a very worthwhile endeavor. And I recommend to all the children out there, don't give up on your important questions. If you have them, they're probably worthwhile pursuing.
Are you still a practicing Buddhist, if I could ask?
I would call myself a practitioner of many different spiritual faiths. I am a practicing Buddhist, but I also am baptized and have strong confidence in Christ and the Christian faith. So I practice what works. I would say why the Buddhist path worked for me, and also why I today still work also as a Buddhist teacher and meditation teacher often, is that you can inquire, right? You have a direct path to ask yourselves questions about the relationship between cause and effects, about what leads to what, about what behaviors bring about what results. And that is a path that always worked very well for me. As you heard, I'm also a researcher and have spent a lot of years in neuroscience. And so I'd like to figure things out. I'd like to, as some people in the community say, hack the way that life works and come to a deep understanding, experiential and also theoretical, but also experiential, of what human life is all about.
Well, you're a fascinating person and full of interest. We could probably talk for
Dawa,
hours. But
that conversation you just played into a 20-year coincidence that's been waiting to happen, because it was 20 years ago. I don't know, CJ, you remember this. We were on our way over to see somebody on the East Coast, and he asked me to describe. I said, well, I'm like Phil Jackson. I'm sort of a Zen Christian. And I don't know if you know Phil Jackson, the coach of the Lakers. And that's how he described himself. And CJ was like, well, what is that? And I tried to, and I don't know if I was even anywhere close to what you're discussing, but I think you just gave him a great definition of a Zen Christian, perhaps.
It's amazing. You're a fascinating person, regardless of what you've done and what you will do. My gosh, I always say you have to follow your heart or your destiny, and it seems like that you are doing that. The day you leave this earth, I'm sure you will have done everything that you've been commanded from God or your inner soul or whatever you want to say to achieve it, because your resume to date is fascinating in every way. I'd like to ask you about AI, and I know you have your company, TAIWA, and explain what that means. I know you had mentioned it before, maybe. How did you come up with that name?
Yeah, so after doing all the research, and then during the financial crisis 2007 2008, I was asked to come to Wall Street to work with financial services companies who to some degree lost a bit of their way and their orientation, and we really explored with them the difference between intelligence and wisdom in the workplace, and particularly in leadership. So that work then I've been doing for quite some time. In 2013, when we saw some of the breakthroughs in artificial intelligence coming out of DeepMind, right, I organized think tanks in Santa Barbara with industry insiders to discuss about the potential of this technology for human development and human transformation. So fast forward 10 years, here we are. The technology has evolved a lot. And TAIWA is an artificial intelligence company that focuses on providing AI for human development, specifically personal and professional growth inside of organizations, because people spend so much time in organizations, but real access to resources for personal and professional growth often is restricted to the top echelon, the executive team, sometimes the top managers or the high potentials in the organization. Right. While at the same time, we're living during very transformative times. The acceleration of technology puts a lot of pressure on organizations, and with it on every professional. And so we believe every professional in today's world should be supported with personal and professional growth opportunities that in the traditional sense are oftentimes unscalable or cost prohibitive. But AI makes it possible to get in there, to provide personalized AI coaching and AI guidance to every professional, no matter the industry, no matter the role and function, no matter the rank and file. TAIWA is a company that provides those services.
So a company comes to you, or you go to a company and they want to do some training with their personnel. You develop a plan to help them train their personnel with using AI to do this. Is that what basically I'm understanding?
Yeah, you can think of it this way. Our platform is customized to a company. So TAIWA, I mentioned, that stands for thought, attitude, imagination, word, and action, the 5 domains that a human being can control in order to change outcomes.
Okay.
And when a company comes to us, then we customize the platform, and we take in their vision, their mission, their values, their purpose, their goals, their strategies. We take in their processes and policies. We take in their HR framework, and we really work with them to understand who they are, what is their DNA, why did they come together, and what are they trying to achieve. Once that has been customized, then the system actually provides personalized AI coaches to every individual. And when I say personalized, these AI coaches are personalized to the person's human development stage, to their learning preference, to their personal and professional background, to their cultural background, even their language preference. So a person in an organization in today, and many of these organizations are already multicultural, multi-ethnical, and sometimes even multinational, or often multinational, then even though in these companies people are so unique and different, everyone can receive professional coaching via an AI, you can say avatar interface that is very personalized to them, and at the same time holds the combined intelligence of the organization, meaning it understands who the organization is, why we have come together, and what we're trying to achieve together.
Is this the future of education in general? I mean, what you're laying down, you might be using it for corporations or companies, but I mean, is this something you see as that will be transformed into schools, colleges, universities? Is this the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, so we already have inquiries from universities. We have inquiries from the healthcare sector. We have inquiries from the financial sector, anywhere where there is education taking place, and particularly when the education needs to go beyond simple knowledge transfer and really has to transfer into behavior change, into long-term behavior change, because there's a drop-off. You know that, right? We attend a class or a seminar or a workshop. A day later, we remember 50%. 2-3 days later, we remember 10%. And then 2 months later, there's barely anything left. And so we see here that in order to provide this practice support, in order to take knowledge and implement it toward behavior change, AI can do a lot to provide additional bandwidth. It's really more of a bandwidth problem. Teachers have bandwidth challenges. Corporate managers have bandwidth challenges, right? We live busy lives. And so it's hard actually to create the extra bandwidth to support people the way that they would want to or need to be supported. Well, AI doesn't have that bandwidth issue. It has, in fact, unlimited bandwidth, and it can take up a lot of the slack that currently in our system we are not able to fill, even with the best of our efforts.
But I know that I've been told anyway that there's problems with AI systematically as far as racial bias and other factors like that. I mean, I would imagine it looks at all the history, it looks at so many things, it uses its ability to think, and it captures a lot of, the negativity of human society and thought, maybe? Am I correct in that? And then if that's the case, how do you balance that or change that, with your company or with others? How do you work through that?
Yeah, that's a great question, CJ. So AI basically, you can say, is probably as good as its data sets. And so AI companies have to make sure that there's a very diverse data set or diverse data sets that are used for training this intelligence. These challenges with bias often appear when the data sets are not very diverse, or when teams don't engage in continuous monitoring or updating, or also integrating user feedback into the AI, or integrating human oversight into the AI in order to make sure that the quality is high. Now, that being said, we're at an early stage here in terms of these generative AI systems. And so they will continue to get better. Scientifically, we are already aware of at least 188 evidence-based identified human biases. And AI biases also can be identified, and we can keep, or actually not we can, we are, right, responsible leaders in AI are working on improving and removing these biases from AI-based systems. Now, in order to do that, though, we have to be aware that as a society, we are a fairly biased society. And the human perspective is still one that holds a lot of biases. So there's work to be done. Yeah, it's not that AI is perfect, but neither is any human educator or human coach. And so even though AI is not yet perfect, there's a lot that already can be achieved with the present state of its capabilities.
Dawa, can you give us an example, a real-life scenario where the racial bias may play out, how it would play out for a job candidate or a coworker or something like that?
Well, one example, for example, is when AI identifies or looks at names of individuals and try to categorize them according to race, based on stereotyping names. You know, it's more likely that with a name like Latoya, for example, you would be classified as an African American woman than if your name was Stacy. Even though, in fact, you know, it might be the other way around, right? So these are classifications. When AI-based systems are used to classify human beings and to put them into categories, this is when also the European Union identifies such AI-based systems as being high risk. And high risk mainly because they may infringe on people's liberties, yeah, which is not what we want, right? We're trying to see how can the AI systems improve people's access to freedom and prosperity versus limit them. And so these are the types of biases that, particularly in the early systems, were very noticeable because they were trained on very limited data sets from very limited populations. And the human experts that were engaging in the reinforced learning also oftentimes were San Francisco-based engineers, right? Most of them white, most of them male, most of them in a certain age group. And so this has been something that was particularly identifiable in early systems. And now since then, there's a lot of work being done to control these biases and correct for these biases by training AI on diverse data sets.
Dawa, one follow-up on this. Besides the racial biases that large language models may pick up from whatever they're scanning and reading, but what about the nature of the language itself? Because I can only speak for English, but light is considered good. You want to go into the light. You want to go. Darkness is scary. That's where the danger is. Does that translate into AI, and do you have to compensate for that?
Yeah, no, you have very good points, right? So context is what matters. So when we look at our technology, then we pay a lot of attention in properly assessing context, because context is what gives meaning. And any kind of advice can go different ways depending on context and therefore depending on meaning. So yes, it requires a lot of experience to know what the context is of a particular word in a particular sentence. But like I said, we're at the very early stage of the capabilities that are developing through these AI-based systems. And so these are all things that we will be able and are able to control for as the systems are becoming better at understanding context.
So does your company deal with that too? I mean, in trying when you're putting together something for a corporation and you're having to teach them, are you just taking the existing AI technology and molding it for that, or is that something that you're active in trying to do as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have part technology that is completely separate from the language models. And this is our coaching intelligence. This is really what masters context of an organization, of an individual in a particular role and function at a particular stage of human development or a particular place in their career. And this is just coaching expertise. This has nothing to do with the AI or the language model. And then when it comes to language models, we are working human-centric. Our focus is on empathetic technology that can really resonate with the human experience and be helpful to the human in navigating the human experience. So we do that through fine-tuning as well as to developing our own models. And this is also one of the things that we focus on, specifically AI for human transformation. But I want to say one other positive application when it comes to this conversation we're having, and that is the ability to personalize. In AI, in a coaching situation, right? So if I'm an employee and I'm a 30-year-old Latina single mom, or I'm a 50-year-old Asian American in my third career, right? We have a very different cultural reference point, a very different ecosystem out of which we view the world. Right. And so we don't respond the same way to, let's say, Jake, who's a 25-year-old coach from Silicon Valley, And so this is where the personalization really comes in, being able to connect culturally appropriate, gender appropriate, language appropriate, and really building that bridge that can be met where we are and then can be supported on our journey. And this is something that is very difficult worldwide. There are maybe 500,000 professional coaches in the world. A coach can, at best per week, handle 20 to 25 individual clients. So there's a limitation to how we can support people in the world currently. And AI is offering the opportunity to break out of that limitation and really allow to support people in a way that hasn't really been possible before on this planet.
It's amazing. It's fascinating. When I listen to you, I think of so many things go through my head, culturally, politically. How do we ensure democracy or democratic type ideology or ideas? In our world, you might live in a democracy and it might be teetering. It's always, and it's based on the information people get. And, who do we turn to? How do we rely on the information we're hearing to be accurate? And as we move more towards computers or artificial intelligence, and who's behind the pushing the buttons to ensure that whatever information is coming out is accurate, so that we as humans can make our decisions. But it sounds like folks like you and your company are cutting edge in that ideas of if you're teaching, if you're promoting, that you're promoting, good stuff, whatever that might be. But it's fascinating what you're involved with. I always tell children, what do you here in this world to do? Most of us are just trying to survive, but I think you and your company and folks like you are trying to really make a difference. What we'll see the big differences in the future of education, of understanding, and especially somebody that's had a background like you that has probably put a lot of thought into where we should be, where we're going, and so forth and so on. So fascinating topic, Dawa. I'm really interested to know more about you. Henry, any questions you have for Dawa?
Well, I have a couple questions. First of all, you spoke to the idea of a coach only being able to handle individuals. Before you were in the tech sphere and you were still working with human transformation, is that how you started? We were just helping individuals, one or two or a few at a time?
No, so I founded and operated a coaching company that had many leadership coaches that it would deploy in organizations, also run large scale organizational transformations with at times thousands of people. And so what happens in these processes is that it takes years to do an organizational transformation, because even if you do a one-to-many and you put one coach in front of many people, you achieve best results when you can support an individual right where they are in their development. Yeah. So we're not saying that the existing system isn't good or doesn't achieve great results. We're just saying it is limited in its reach.
Well, in the idea of one to many, now you're also at least one time, maybe more times because we haven't asked you, but a one-time movie director of a film that just debuted at a film festival last month, Planetary Pilgrim. Did you have any background in filmmaking, and what is the idea behind the film?
Yeah, I did not have background in filmmaking. I have a lot of friends in the film industry because I live in Santa Barbara, and I've been around it. Yeah, I've had during my college days, I had off and on a job in the film industry, but this has nothing to do with what called me to make a film. What called me to make a film really was a story that needed to be told about how we relate to one another and how we relate to our planet as our shared home. And there, I got called to travel around the world and to experience the way different societies view their home and the sacredness and the uniqueness that exists in so many places around the world where people experience awe and wonder, and where people, let's say, celebrate something about the human spirit. And so I traveled around the world. It took me 30 days, and I took a group of people with me. And it was an exploration of what is it really that connects us all, and what is the difference between being here on Earth as a tourist, which means you try to take the maximum out of it and try to make sure that you can pay the bill at the end, or being here as somewhat of a pilgrim, meaning being here to learn something, being here to transform, being here to grow. And that is the premise of the film. And I was really guided to do the film because so many people can't get onto a trip like this. So many people can't actually leave their home and travel the world and experience the eye-opening effect that it has when you visit different cultures and you actually get to be in their home, and you get to see the reverence they have for the things that are important to them. And so the film was important because it allows people to go on a pilgrimage from their own home, from their sofa, from wherever it is that they can take an hour to watch a movie, and yet have the same experience that those of us who got to travel had in terms of recognizing what connects us as people when there's so much divisiveness in the world.
Dawa, I just want to let everybody know that's watching on YouTube that whether it's the trailer for Planetary Pilgrim or a connection to TAIWA or some of the other things that we've talked about, be sure and check out the description on YouTube. The links will be in there. And also, if CJ will indulge me 10 more seconds, I want to ask people, we have a new QR code down in the corner of our screen. So you hover over that and it'll give you a chance to subscribe to us, or it'll even take you, if you scan it, you can see what CJ does during the days when he's not a YouTube sensation.
Yeah, right.
So, thank you, Dawa.
Amazing, Dawa. You're truly a visionary, a remarkable human being, and I'm sure your parents are extremely proud of you. You're making a difference in this world, and we want to thank you for taking the few minutes. And it's been an honor to meet you and to hear your story, and hopefully we'll take something from this and go forward.
It's been wonderful to talk to you. You've had great questions, and also sharing a bit from your own journey. I know you're well-traveled. You've seen so many places of the world. And so I feel a kinship there. And so thank you for what you're doing with your show. And thank you for having me and sharing the work we're doing with the world.
We will follow with you and follow up with you and make sure, and I'm sure great things are coming. Thank you, Dawa, very much. Mr. Phillips, thank you, sir.